there's definitely an element of dehumanization that goes into that. And you and I both know that if it was a Wall Street banker, if it was a white dude wearing a suit and a tie, there's no way they would treat a white dude wearing a suit and a tie like that. So there is an element of dehumanization.
That is false. There is no data to say that black people are getting killed more than whites by police. Stop trying to make this a race issue. This is not a race issue. This is a police brutality issue on everyone. Now, I'm going to say there's not a major problem with police brutality, but there is a problem. More so the problem that some of these police officers get away with it.
You know, it's so sad that we get this stuff all the time. There are so many videos that are like this. They happen all the time. We, at the very least, get like 3 or 4 per year.
The amount of interactions police have with people is peaceful. Little to no force is ever used. There are thousands and thousands of interactions with the police, with citizens. Thousands. And most of the killings by police that happen are justified. Not all, but most. So, no, this is not happening all the time. It is not a rampant problem. It is a problem, but it's not a rampant problem.
As horrific as the response has been and as unjustified as these riots are, they're probably not going to stop until the cops are actually arrested.
That's amazing. So he feels the need to feed the Fox News narrative and reduce people's, first of all, obviously most of the protests are just protests. They weren't, a lot of people who weren't engaging in anything were still hit with tear gas and rubber bullets. Then there's people who have been expressing rage by breaking windows of a precinct.
Bull. Now, are there peaceful protesters among those rioters? Yes, but there are lots of rioters, and these rioters are very violent. They're not just attacking precincts, they're setting them on fire. In fact, 3 precincts have already been set on fire. From how I see it, that's attempted murder.
But it's interesting watching somebody like how he is still working in bounds of this right-wing propaganda context to push a different narrative.
The person he's talking about right here is a judge who condemned the police and condemned the fact that one of the police officers who was the murderer was not arrested. Now, the majority report is complaining that the judge was condemning the rioters. And believe it or not, it gets worse with some of these crazy left-wing news commentators on YouTube.
After an unarmed black man named George Floyd was murdered by 4 police officers in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
It was 1 police officer who murdered him, not 4.
Protests broke out across the United States. And surprisingly, police officers remained relatively calm as people demanded justice for George Floyd. As you can see from this video here, armed protesters actually stormed the state capitol in Michigan demanding justice for George Floyd. And in California, protesters were actually confronting cops directly, getting in their faces, screaming in their faces, and demanding justice for George Floyd. Or wait, hang on a second. Okay, so I'm getting word from my producer that I mixed up the footage. I made a mistake. That was not footage from the protests regarding George Floyd. That was protests that took place a couple of weeks ago. Right-wing protests of armed thugs demanding that states reopen.
I hate it when people like you do this. They're not thugs. These were peaceful protests. Do I agree with them going up in their faces and maybe yelling at them? No, I don't agree with that. But am I okay with them being armed? Yes. They should be armed. But were these people thugs? No. Now, was the police retaliation towards the riots unjustified? No.
So the footage that I'm going to show you, this is actually footage from Minneapolis, where police officers responded in a more predictable manner. So these are photos from Star Tribune's Carlos Gonzalez. And okay, this is what I expected. We see police officers in riot gear, shooting rubber bullets, throwing tear gas. This makes a lot more sense.
That is bull.
For example, Tommy Loren clutched her pearls at the looting, tweeting, "If you smash and bang on cop cars, riot and burn flags in the streets and loot your community businesses, you are not a protester. You are part of the problem. Is this really how you bring justice? Is this how you honor his life?"
She's right, you know.
If you actually do try to draw attention to police brutality in the way that Colin Kaepernick did, and you kneel during the Pledge of Allegiance, national anthem, she's going to take issue with that as well. Here's what she said about a city official who chose to kneel during the Pledge of Allegiance.
I think what she's doing is disrespectful. I think also we have to remember that just because she has the right doesn't make her right.
That police officers across the country are murdering unarmed black Americans with impunity.
How Colin Kaepernick did it was the wrong way to do it. He was disrespectful to the country. You can protest what you believe to be police brutality, but there is a proper way to do it. Showing disrespect is not the way to do it. And when you're on the job protesting, that's also not the right time to do that sort of thing. The other part is that Colin Kaepernick is wrong about police brutality. It isn't aimed at black people, and it isn't such a systemic problem where it's so huge that people are getting killed by the police left and right. That is false. How you protest is how Martin Luther King Jr. protested. Things like that. How you protest is by organizing protests with signs and going to precincts and protesting in front of them and going to city capitol protesting, going to government buildings and carrying signs, carrying even guns if you can, legally speaking, although I think you should be able to carry them with you no matter what, but carrying guns and signs to government buildings and protesting police brutality or what you believe to be police brutality. That is how you protest.
If you burn a city to the ground to riot against injustice, you should be arrested and thrown in prison.
He's right. Do you know that?
But shouldn't we, as responsible leftists, actually condemn this behavior that we're seeing, condemn the looting? Well, my response to that is sure, and I'm going to take the time to condemn looting right now. Quote, "American billionaires got $434 billion richer during the pandemic. As Michael Brooks put it, this is looting, and I condemn this." This is a photo of Kelly Loeffler. She is a United States senator who, along with some of her colleagues, including Richard Burr, Dianne Feinstein, dumped their stocks before the market tanked after they were briefed on COVID-19. As Blaine puts it, she is a looter, and I absolutely unequivocally condemn her and the behavior of her colleagues. This photograph includes images of some of the world's biggest, most notorious looters. It includes billionaires like Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, one of the Koch brothers, and these individuals are all looters who looted the wealth that they now control. They stole the wealth.
None of these people are looters. That is not looting. They are not stealing money. They are pulling their investments. That's not immoral. So quit with your f***ing lying. I am very sure you know what looting means. I do not think you're so stupid to not know what that word means. So I'm going to say that you are outright lying.
Oh, okay, so you wanted me to actually talk about the rioting and the looting. Here's the thing. I don't actually consider what protesters in Minneapolis are doing as rioting or looting. As Mark Lamont Hill puts it, these are rebellions. This isn't random or irrational violence. This is organized resistance to an evil system that only pays attention when it feels financially or physically unsafe. This is how we feel every day. Exactly.
This is what I meant. The disgustingness. You are the most disgusting kind of human being because you are justifying this.
Welcome to the air, nigga.
now. This is Target right now.
Today, we found Corboy Bala, who invested his life savings into opening this sports bar, cleaning up. While our camera was there, looters came back to try to steal his safe.
Right, trying to steal the safe!
I don't know what we're gonna do. We worked so hard to get here. So hard.
You gotta bang on that door and get a hose. The fence is starting to go on the light pole too.
You are justifying assault. You are justifying theft of private property. You are justifying destruction of private property and of public property. You are justifying the arson of housing development, of precincts. You are justifying the attempted murder of people. There has been at least one death from all of these riots so far, and there may turn out to be more. Who knows? We will see.